of housekeeping, and I have everyone on mute mode, which means that we cannot hear background noise. But if you have questions, we certainly want to entertain those questions. And so on the right-hand side of your screen, you will see a place for questions, and you may actually write that out, and I will be monitoring this, and I will be glad to answer your questions, and will answer your questions as he goes along. Today's webinar is really some basic training on websites, and I mean very basic training, and you'll find out why we think you need this basic training shortly. But we are honored today to have with us our web manager here at CoreCube, Will Chatham, and he has been in the internet working since 1999. And he's worked in a lot of capacities, so he has a very broad spectrum of skills that range from web design to system administration to information security, and he's worked in a wide spectrum of types of businesses also. So he certainly brings with him a wealth of knowledge and information, and you are in for a treat today with Will Chatham, who will now start our presentation. Will, are you with us?
I am with you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine. Thank you.
Great, great. Hello, everyone, and thanks for attending today. What I'm going to do is cover some of the basics of what you need to know to get a website online. If you already have a website, some of this will definitely be relevant for you still. You may learn a thing or two that will help you manage your existing website, and hopefully just to provide an understanding of how it all works from the beginning to beginning steps you need to take to getting your website online and getting it created and designed and everything like that. So that covers several topics ranging from domain names to web hosts, email, content management systems for static websites, what kind of website you want to build, and then making sure you're covering your SEO, search engine optimization basics from the beginning. So we're going to start with domain names. You may be familiar with what a domain name is if you've ever been on the internet. The domain name is, Google.com, or in this example, coolcompany.com. It is what basically makes the internet human-friendly. It translates numbers into names to make it easier to remember addresses and whatnot. So you do want to get a domain name for your business, for your website, so that people will know how to find you without having to remember a number. And to do that, you use a domain registrar. There are a number of approved registrars through which you can buy a domain name. And this is a yearly cost, and usually if you buy a domain for 2 or 3 or more years, you can save some money on the yearly cost. Some of the bigger named domain registrars are Network Solutions, GoDaddy, and Dotster. They have varying prices on domain names. You can find deals for each company. Usually, if you do a Google search, for example, for GoDaddy coupon code, you can often find a 10 or 20% off coupon, which is helpful. Domain names don't typically cost a lot of money, so we're talking anywhere between $10 to $20 a year, based on what additional services you may choose to buy with your domain name when you register it through one of these companies. Registrars do offer a lot of extra services such as web hosting and email. You don't have to purchase those services necessarily to get a domain name. They like to try to, some of the companies like to try to get you to buy into their web hosting while you get your domain name just so you have it all in one place. But in my experience, it's better to buy your domain name from one place and then look at your options for web hosting, which is what I'm going to cover in a minute. But you don't necessarily want to put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak. So when you're choosing a domain name, you might want to think about what the website you're building is about. Typically, you're probably here if you have a business or a company or wanting to start a website. So you want to consider certain things such as the keywords related to your business. What is it that you're selling? What are your services? What kind of products do you have? Come up with a list of keywords, and sometimes you can refine that by adding in your location. If you're only selling books in Miami, for example, a great domain name would be by miamibookstore.com. If you're in New York and you sell dog food primarily to people in New York, then newyorkdogfood.com would be great. You have your keywords in there, dog food, and you have your location in there, which is going to make it, it's going to be helpful for search engine optimization because certain search engines, Google especially, are now placing importance on the keywords in the domain name. So if you consider that, you can help boost your search engine rankings from the get-go when you choose a domain name that has your keywords and has your location. It's good to balance the length of a domain name with the strength of the domain name. You don't want to make it too long. You don't want to make it too confusing for people to remember. A good rule of thumb is to, again, choose a keyword and then choose a generic word as well. And this would be more for someone that doesn't have a location that they're trying to target, such as New York or Miami. This would be good if you wanted to target the whole country or the whole world. So you could choose your keyword, such as dog food, and then another generic word that kind of makes sense with spot. So dogfoodspot.com, it's a spot to go get your dog food online. Homecareexperts.com. Let's say you have multiple home care agencies across the country that you manage. This would be a great kind of umbrella domain that uses a keyword and uses a generic strength-based word as well. It makes it easy for people to remember your domain name. Now you may be wondering, why not use the name of my company? And you can use that, and that can be a good option. But from a search engine optimization perspective, it's good to try to get a keyword in there as well. If your company name happens to have, the word home care or dog food in it, well, you've got that covered. So it's good to just kind of consider all of those aspects when choosing your domain name. It is definitely best to go for a .com domain name over any of the other so-called TLDs, which is covers things like .net and .org. There are a bunch of them now. And people recognize .com the most, and that seems the most authoritative in people's eyes, just in the eyes of the general public. So it's good to try to get a .com if you can, and not to settle for the .net version if someone already has your .com version. Get the .com, use that as your primary domain name, and then also buy up the rest of them. So buy up the .net version, the .org version, the .me version of your domain name as well, so that you don't run the risk in the future of a competitor buying up all of those and then trying to take away sales from people who might have mistyped it or found the other version by mistake. With the domain name, you have the option of setting up email using the domain name that you've chosen. For example, you@coolcompany.com, if coolcompany.com is your domain name, you can set up email. That's typically done either through the web host or through an email provider. But if you're not thrilled about the keywords that or the domain name that you used as far as a branding and kind of professional aspect, you can still use your company domain name as well. So if you have coolcompany.com and you want to use that as your email communication domain, that's fine. You can still have your website live at another place, such as dogfoodspot.com or dogfoodinc.com. Okay? I'm going to touch on the web hosting basics now. And again, some of the domain name registrars do offer web hosting, but it's a good plan to investigate some of your other options before you choose to sign up for their web hosting. It all depends basically on what kind of website you want to build and how much traffic you envision yourself getting to your website and a few other variables. But web hosting basically is a spot for your website to live on the internet. And once you've registered or purchased a web hosting account, which is typically a monthly cost, you point your domain name at that account, and then you upload your website files to that account. And so when people go to your domain name, they see your website. There are many types of web hosting, many different web hosts. and it can be pretty overwhelming to kind of try and figure it all out. But in general, a good rule of thumb is that if you have a basic website, and that is, a 5 to 10 page website that's primarily a brochure online for people finding you or your company and looking up your services, looking up your phone number, that sort of thing. You can go with what's called shared web hosting, and that typically costs. You can find it as cheap as $5 a month, but it can range between $5 and $15 a month or so. And the thing to keep in mind with shared web hosting is it's great for simple websites that don't generate a whole lot of traffic, that are not database driven, that sort of thing, because you're sitting on a web server with potentially thousands of other websites, all vying for the same resources from the web server hardware. So you've got to keep that in mind, because if you do see a sudden spike or a sudden rise in traffic, your website might get really slow because it's competing for the same memory that the other websites are on the web server. So if you want to take it up a notch, if you notice that your website is pretty slow, you can go up to a little bit more complex web hosting solution, which is called a virtual private server, a VPS. And what that does is you're still on a server with other websites, but they have guaranteed that you will always have a certain amount of resources available to your website. And you have a little bit more control that way. You can monitor things a little bit better. Your website will likely perform a little bit better as well. You're still sharing a server and some of the resources with people, but at least you're guaranteed a certain amount of memory, a certain amount of hard disk space, and that sort of thing. So if your website needs a little bit of performance boost, you can upgrade it to a VPS. And then, and that also goes for being a database-driven website. They tend to perform better under a VPS situation as well. And I'll touch on that a little bit later as well. And then advanced web servers, you can actually rent an entire web server for yourself, which is called a dedicated web server. And that is if you are getting a lot of traffic to your website, as in thousands of visitors a day. Your website is database driven and it needs a lot of resources. So that is an option if you have a larger website. Choosing a web hosting company can be a daunting task. There are many, many companies out there. Some of them are better than others, obviously, and it's hard to kind of single out the good ones, but a good place to check and do a little bit of research is a website called webhostingtalk.com, and people there are often from web hosting companies, and it's kind of the industry's hangout spot for web hosts and people that provide web hosting services, and they will review each other's companies and their deals, and people come there to get advice on what kind of web host to choose, and there's a lot of good information there. They have articles and blog articles about what to look for in a web host, how to select, a good company who has, the best uptime, who has good customer support, and those are definitely things to consider. Customer support especially, it's great to be able to pick up the phone if your website's down for some reason and get somebody on the other end of the line right away. Sometimes you'll pay a little bit more for the excellent customer service, but it can definitely help. And then you need to choose a platform that suits your needs. And the different web server platforms come in Windows, with Windows software, Linux. They come with databases, different types of databases, different email software. And typically at CoreCube, we go with Linux web servers because they support a lot of the databases and coding languages that we use. And you may think Windows is the way to go just because you're familiar with Windows. You might have it on your computer at home and in your offices and whatnot, but typically Windows web hosting is actually more expensive and is not really the way you want to go. It's more costly to develop websites for Windows, to host websites on Windows platforms, and that's why Linux is actually the most prevalent web server-based software out there on the internet. Okay. And your email does not have to be run through the web host. A lot of web hosts do offer some basic email services, giving you the ability to create email addresses for you and your employees or whatever. And that's great, but a lot of times the web host email is kind of limited, the email that comes with a web hosting account. It's a good plan to, if you're going to be using email, especially for business, to kind of look at other options, a different service for using your email. And there are other advantages to that as well, such as having your email will still work if your website goes down for some reason. So that can be important. And there are other options such as Google Apps for your domain, which is a email service that Google provides. They do have a limited free version you can use, and then if you need more than a certain number of accounts, you can sign on. I think it's $50 per user per year for Google Apps for your domain, and then all your email runs through Google using your domain name still, but it is the web-based Gmail interface. You can also use Outlook or your favorite email client on your computer, but it's a great system because it comes with all of the stuff that Google Mail comes with, which is excellent spam, anti-spam services, antivirus stuff, and all of the online services Google offers, such as Google Docs and Google Sites and many, many more. So that's an option for you as well. Going into a little bit about what type of website you may be interested in building once you've purchased your domain name, once you've purchased your web hosting account and your domain is pointed at your web hosting account. Well, now it's time to start thinking about the website that you want to build. So there are several different ways to go here. One is just kind of a traditional static website, and that is a site that has been coded in HTML, maybe a few other scripting languages thrown in there. But in general, it's a static site that is not updated often, and when you do need to update it, you either need to know a little bit about code yourself, or you have to get someone that does know that to do it for you. And it can be cheaper to go that route to implement a static website from the get-go, but it's harder to maintain it in the long run, and it's harder to keep it updated and active and relevant and fresh, which has a lot of advantages in this day and age on the internet, search engine optimization wise. So that's why at CoreCube we like to build content management systems for our clients. We build a website based on a content management system software package, and we tend to build them on either WordPress or Expression Engine, two of our favorites. And this comes with a lot of advantages. Once the website is built, it enables people with no coding knowledge, and that would be typically you, that to be able to log in and update your website yourself. There's a secure administrative area where you can log in and update the content, upload pictures, post videos, have a blog, that sort of thing. And you don't need a web designer or a programmer to update your website for you. It does cost a little bit more up front to get a content management system built for you, but in the long run, you're going to be able to keep your website updated without asking for help. And a fresh, updated website is always a great thing to have as far as search engine optimization goes, because frequently updated websites encourage search engines to return to your website more often and see what's there. And that in turn brings more of a chance that you'll rise higher in the search engine results, and you'll get more traffic, which in turn encourages more people to link to your website, which also helps with search engine optimization. Content management systems typically are database driven. I just wanted to mention that real quick. The content is stored in a database and served up dynamically, so do consider that when you're thinking about your web hosting. Again, content management systems allow your website to stay relevant and current, and they often have tools to help integrate with some of the social networking sites such as Facebook and Twitter and any number of those, LinkedIn and whatnot. You can have a blog, which is a great place to post your articles, news, ideas, thoughts about your business. Anything like that is a great thing to have, just because it helps, again, it helps search engines realize that you're a frequently updated website, and it brings them back to index your content more often. Content management systems, again, they make it easy for you to upload a PDF document or a Word document, post a video, audio file, anything like that, without needing to know any code, which is great. Alrighty. I think we're stuck.
Sorry, for some reason. There we go.
Oh, okay.
Apologize.
No problem. Again, more on the search engine optimization and covering your bases. Content management systems, typically the ones we like, the ones we prefer, WordPress and Expression Engine, they come just out of the box. They come with a well-coded backend. They generate clean code. It is search engine friendly code, and it kind of gives you a leg up on being ready for the search engines to come find your website, as opposed to a static website where there's a lot more effort that needs to be put into it when it's being created, and you would need to make sure that the person creating your website from the beginning knows a good bit about coding for the search engines, using clean code, separating content from structure, that sort of, or style from structure, that sort of thing. The content management systems, again, integrate with social media, have blogging capabilities. They also do things such as notify pinging services as soon as your website or your blog has been updated, which all of these are a great way for the internet to be aware that you're there, that you're updating, and to hopefully bring more eyeballs to your website, which is the end goal here. Ongoing SEO efforts as well are helped by content management systems. It's easy to go in and update keywords behind the scenes. Any number of SEO reporting tools can be integrated into content management systems. It's easy to integrate Google's SEO services such as Google Analytics and Google Webmaster Tools into a CMS. And again, it's very important to have the designers and the developers know a lot about SEO from the beginning, so that you're taking advantage, the most advantage that you can of your new website, and making sure that it is going to get the best positioning it can when you launch it. Something else to consider, we talked a little bit about keywords as far as your domain goes, your domain name goes, but it's a good idea to come up with a list of keywords that you want to be found for. So when someone goes out on the internet to search for something, what do you want people to find you by searching for? And you could start out with a list of maybe 20, 25 different keywords that describe your company, your products, your services, your location, and then build your website with those in mind. And another thing to do from the beginning is to install Google Analytics on your website, so that when it does launch, you can tell when Google has found it. You can start looking at your traffic behavior, the people that how many people are coming to your site per day, what keywords they did use to find you with, which keywords are working better for you, which ones are not, and you can kind of get a good idea on what you might need to change on the website to help it perform better. Google offers several tools that assist in that, such as Google Analytics and Google Webmaster Tools, Google Places as well. And you want to make sure that whoever is designing your website and creating it knows about these, sets them up from the beginning, and knows how to check them and read the results and help you make sure your website is going to perform as well as it can. It's definitely, a website is definitely not something that you want to set and forget. You want to keep an eye on how people are finding you, again, and kind of fine-tune the text on your website and the keywords behind the scenes, just to make sure you're getting the most eyeballs looking at your website as possible. And again, keeping your content fresh with a blog is a great way to do that. And all of that helps encourage the inbound links, which are links from other websites to your website. And that is, getting as many of those as possible from good sources is one of the best ways to make your website perform well in the search engines. So in summary, you want to choose a domain name wisely. Once you have that picked out and purchased, you want to consider the needs as far as a web host goes, and that again includes things such as the software platform, Windows or Linux. Do you need a database? Do you need just a simple website that could be on a shared hosting, or do you need to upgrade that to a VPS or even a dedicated web server? Think about your email, how you want to set that up. You know, if you're not going to use it that much, if you only have 2 or 3 employees, it's probably fine to run it through your web hosting. If you have more than that, you could take advantage of the Google Apps for your domain, or any number of web hosting or email hosting services out there. And then think about what kind of website you're building. And we strongly encourage people to go with content management systems, but you know, sometimes there may be reasons you want to stay away from that and just go with a static website. So consider those options. But no matter what, cover your SEO basis from the beginning, and make sure that you have your keywords selected, you have your analytics installed on the website, and you're able to tell who's looking at your website, where they came from, and how they found you. And you know, CoreCube is happy to help you with any of this stuff. We have experts that cover all of the steps we can help you with, and from website design to development to ongoing SEO efforts. And we would be happy to answer questions and help you out.
Very, very good, Will. Thank you very much. And right now we only have one question that someone has asked, and I'm going to ask Will that in a minute. But as an audience, you all have been incredibly attentive, sorry. So if you have questions, please do type them in on the right-hand side. Well, we have a question that says, does the order of keyword and generic word matter? And I think that means when you are selecting a domain name, because that's when this question came in.
It can matter a little bit. You kind of want to try to put yourself in the typical web surfer's shoes and think about what someone would search for. If you are the bookstore in Miami, would you sit down at your computer and go to Google and type bookstore in Miami, or would you be more likely to type Miami bookstores? And there are actually tools out there which will show you which keywords are getting searched for more. I would think that with those 2 specific keywords, the order isn't going to really matter that much. It'd probably be split 50-50. And Google is actually pretty good about detecting, kind of lumping things in together. So if you have miamibookstore.com versus bookstore.miami.com, it's not going to matter that much. But that probably did not answer your question very directly. But I would say that you go with the one that is easier for the human to remember, because that's the one that's more likely to get searched for. In this case, I think miamibookstore.com would probably be the best way to go, just because it sounds more natural than bookstoremiami.com. It's more likely to get searched for as Miami Bookstore. Okay?
Okay, I now have some more questions. So can you help us optimize our Google AdWords campaign?
CoreCube does not get into AdWords too much. We do have some people we can recommend for doing that. That's kind of a different realm from what we do. We tend to focus more on what's called the organic search engine results and organic search engine optimization. And for people that are unfamiliar, the AdWords is when you purchase ad spots from Google based on keywords that you're interested in. And that's a great tool for when there is a lot of competition for given keywords. But CoreCube, we prefer to try to focus on the organic search engine results. So if you have, if you'd like us to make some recommendations, feel free to send an email after this, and we can definitely provide you with some help there.
I want to make just an editorial comment. I've got some more questions, but about paid AdWords versus organic searches, and just mention that if you do paid AdWords, that certainly does work. However, in the long run, it doesn't help you. So all the money you put towards your paid AdWords does not help at all with any of your organic searches. So it's money wasted. However, if you spend your money trying to optimize your site and be found in organic searches, then that money continues to grow over the long term. So that is why we have made the decision not to do AdWords. Plus, you can only specialize in so many things, and we just decided not to do that. So, okay, next question. Can you talk about keyword research and search volume tools?
Yeah, there are a bunch of different tools out there. If you just do a Google search for, keyword volume, Google offers several tools themselves, which you can use to research the volume, is what they call it, of keywords, the search volume, that is. And that specifically means that you can find out how much a certain keyword is being searched for on a given day. You can refine it by using Google's tool. You can refine it by location, by city location, for example, or by country. So if your service area, again, is in Miami, your bookstore in Miami, you can go look up how many people are searching for used books in Miami, for example. And how many of those people, you might want to focus that on the Miami area, obviously, because you don't really care if people are searching for it elsewhere, especially if you're not selling books online. So you can use the tool to see, if it's better for you to optimize your website for used books in Miami versus used paperbacks in Miami or something. You can see which term people search for more often, and choose to target your SEO efforts towards those keywords.
Okay, I have another question, and I'm going to ask it, but it says to clarify, in a list of keywords, will the keyword listed first have a greater chance of being found? And I think that's a hard question because I don't know where they're talking about a list of keywords. Do you know?
Can you read that one more time?
It says to clarify, in a list of keywords, will the keyword listed first have a greater chance of being found?
Oh, okay. I think that was referring to when I was talking about building a list of keywords to optimize your website for. And that list is what you have just kind of, yourself, a list of keywords. And you want to definitely choose yourself which one is the most important to you. In the case of the Miami bookstore, I would think that, Miami bookstore is going to be the most important keyword. But further down your list, you might have something, such as paperback, used paperbacks in Miami, for example. So that list is ranked yourself kind of in order of importance. But when you actually go to implement those keywords on your website, you would probably want to focus the most important ones to you on the home page of your website. That's where you would want to focus the efforts for that keyword. And then some of the sub-pages and other pages of the website, you could use some of the less important keywords to optimize those pages for the less important ones. But the list that I was referring to is not something that the search engines ever see. It's more of a list of keywords that you've come up with that you use to implement on your website. I hope that makes sense and helps clarify.
The next question is, what should you look for and look out for when selecting someone to help with AdWords help?
That's a good question. I kind of tend to recommend in any kind of, whenever you're looking for help with any search engine efforts. You want to stay away from the people that are going to guarantee results. If they're saying, we guarantee you'll get to the top of Google in a month or, in a week or something like that, or they're guaranteeing that you're going to get certain results, stay away from those people, because in the search engine optimization world, nothing can really be guaranteed. You can do a lot of work to get the best chance of things happening, but the industry changes very frequently, and by that I mean week to week, if not day to day. Things get changed. Google updates the way they index websites and the way they place importance on one website versus another one. So it's never a guaranteed thing. And often the people that do guarantee things are going to use some of the more shady tactics to get your website to perform well. Yes, it's possible for you to get to the top of Google very quickly based, for certain keywords, but the method that they use to do that can be shady, and if they are using some of the shadier tactics, then you actually may get banned from Google and your domain get blacklisted, and then no one will ever find you at all. So you got to watch out for the people that are guaranteeing quick, instant results, and just kind of use some common sense when selecting the companies. Talk to the people that work there, kind of listen to them, and definitely shop around a little bit and figure out which one feels the most comfortable for you.
And they were specifically asking about AdWords, and what I would recommend for AdWords, which are the paid, pay-per-click, that you get recommendations from people, which is what Will said. If you write us, we'll give you recommendations. For a couple of people that we actually do work with for the AdWords component, what we've noticed over the years is that a lot of people say they know how to do pay-per-click or say they know how to do AdWords, and you can spend an incredible amount of money and you can get a lot of hits, but what you're really looking for is someone to either purchase your product or your service, and that's what you're really looking for. So no matter how many hits you get, it doesn't really matter. If you get 1 million hits and no one buys anything, then you've paid a lot of money for nothing.
Right.
So I would go with recommendations from us or people who are in your industry but not competitors who are using AdWords might have good recommendations for you. But I would basically go with recommendations. Would be, didn't ask me. This is Will's webinar, but I'm answering. So.
No, that's great. Great answer.
Thank you, Will. Thank you. And that is the end of the questions. So I want to thank everyone for your attendance today. And Will, as always, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. And if anyone needs any help, as Will said, we've got plenty of ways to contact us and plenty of things that we do. So we'd love to entertain a proposal for you all if anyone's interested. And we look forward to hearing from you in the future. And we're having our very next webinar. Is going to be in May. And Will, I hope you can help me out with the date. I should know that.
Oh, gosh.
It's on our Core Cubed website under events, and it is in May, and it's actually going to be, Will is going to take people's websites that you submit earlier when you register, and he will actually look at the website, and he will go through it and do a critique of the website from a design standpoint and an ease of navigation and SEO standpoint. Is that right, Will?
Yes. Yeah. Just kind of a rundown of what I think you could do to improve search engine optimization, usability, and hopefully get more traffic to your website.
Okay. And I was trying to see when that's going to be. It will be May the 17th.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Here it is, May the 17th. I believe at noon. So so it's on our website. No, sorry, May the 17th, 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Yes. So it is on our website. You can sign up there, or I'm sure we'll be sending out some email communication about it. So let me make sure I haven't had any more questions while we've been futzing around with dates. Nope, I do not. So thank you all so very much, and hopefully we'll see you next month. Have a great day, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye. Thanks, Will.
Mm-hmm.